Last week, Campaign Against Antisemitism announced on ITV News that it is offering a £10,000 reward for information leading to a conviction in connection with a violent anti Semitic attack in West Hampstead. The assailant, said to have been carrying a knife, is alleged to have told the victim that he wanted to kill his first Jew before leaving briefly, only to return and to start punching him repeatedly, stating, "I'm not going to leave until you are dead." The segment, along with full details of the incident, can be found at antisemitism.org/West Hampstead. To talk more on this story, I'm joined by Daniel, the victim of the attack, alongside Campaign Against Antisemitism's Director of Investigations and Enforcement, Stephen Silverman. Thank you both for joining me. Now, Daniel, to impart upon the listeners just how sensitive this incident is, you are using an alias for this recording, as you did on the ITV segment that aired last week. For those who may not have seen the ITV segment, would you mind telling our listeners exactly what happened and the impact that the attack has had on your life since?
Yeah, sure. So I was on my commute home. It was a Thursday evening, about 7:15, and it was Hanukkah. There were Jews around, sort of going to and from synagogue. I went to a nearby shop, and I wanted to go in and get some groceries. And there was a Hanukkah being desecrated outside the shop by the attacker. I didn't confront him, but I don't know why, but he made a beeline for me and thought I was Jewish. And he asked me threateningly, "Are you Jewish?" And I said no. And he was looking. He told me very kind of calmly that he was looking for Jews to kill, and if I saw one, to let him know because he wanted to kill them. So I was quite shocked from this interaction, and I went into the shop. I phoned the police. I told them there was a guy looking to attack me and looking for Jews to kill. They said they'd take about an hour to get there. Some time passed. The store manager as well had seen him earlier, and we basically saw the attacker um, later on sort of harassing somebody, and he saw us looking, and then sort of went charged for me. He decided I was Jewish, and he was saying, "I want to kill my first Jew." He followed me into the store and kept saying how he was going to kill me and how he knows that I'm now Jewish and wanted to kill me. He won't leave until he kills his first Jew. That's what he was saying. "I won't leave until I've killed you." In between this, he was shouting things in Arabic and English and the same kind of rhetoric. He unloaded sort of 5 punches. He attacked me 5 times to the head. I managed to sort of block most of it, and I kept trying to walk backwards and telling him to back off, and he said, "No, I'm not leaving until you're dead." And my back leg hit one of the aisles in the shop, and I turned to see where I could run to next. And in that brief moment that I turned, he actually decided to kind of punch me, and that did make contact with my head, and it left me quite badly bruised. And I rolled with that punch, and if I hadn't done that, it would have knocked me out. And then the knife he pulled out later, he would have used at that point to kill me. But I managed to kind of just keep moving backwards away from him. And then he continued to follow me, pulling the knife out, saying he's going to kill me, and then I ran off. And yeah, it was very traumatic. I was traumatized for quite a while afterwards, to be completely honest. I'm lucky, I've had to be in therapy to make sure I don't get PTSD. My family was shocked. I mean, my mum has been shocked ever since, to be honest. And only when she saw the ITV segment, it was the first time she kind of cried after it, and she kind of has been in shock since. And to be honest, I don't really feel safe walking around. I'm always sort of double crossing where I am. The police response, in my opinion, has been quite poor. I'm very disappointed with it. And sadly, as well, this isn't actually my first encounter with anti-Semitism in my life, but it's definitely the most violent, particularly in the area I live. So definitely a highly traumatic thing, and I'm still struggling to deal with the fact that I could have died that day purely based off of someone that thought I was Jewish and wanted to kill me as a result of it.
That's an incredibly harrowing story. And, the image of your mum and your family just having to hear this, obviously, in addition to you yourself, is quite hard to take in. And what strikes me from what you've just said is the apparent lack of response from the police. And I just want to go back to that. What was your assessment of the police then and throughout this investigation?
So I was initially very disappointed when they told me it would take an hour to get back and arrive on scene. So I was highly disappointed overall. The officers that arrived, look, I don't. I'm not saying I don't think they're bad people, but they clearly didn't have the training to recognise that it was an anti-Semitic attack on arriving at the scene, because they didn't feed back important information to their superiors. I actually received an apology the following day because Community Securities Trust (CST) actually got in touch with police at the time with the initial fallout of the attack and explained the situation. And the investigators of the matter didn't realise it was an anti-Semitic attack at the time, so they phoned me apologising. And then my hopes got up because they're investigating, but then I've ultimately become incredibly disappointed with the outcome of the investigation, where they haven't even bothered to look at the bus CCTV in the area. I just feel like I've lost a lot of faith in them as an organisation, to be honest. I'm very disappointed. Their response, they said that there were no buses at the time of the attack. Well, I've opened Google now and I can see the C11 bus, the 328 bus, and the 139 bus are all within 8 minutes. They all arrive at the same time, roughly every 8 minutes. And the attack lasted about 20 minutes, sort of, he was in the area for that time. It's just a lie that they're saying there were no buses at the time. But they also said, oh, even if there were, it'd be disproportionate. It'd be a disproportionate amount of effort for the benefit that could be obtained, which is again just a lie, because they're basically saying that the guy that tried to end my life because I was Jewish is not worth the time to find by just looking at some bus CCTV. So I find that quite disappointing, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and it's I can completely understand why you would be so disheartened with the police now as a result of that. And as mentioned earlier, Campaign Against Antisemitism is offering a £10,000 reward for information leading to a conviction in this case. Steve, why is CAA doing this, and what does it say about the seriousness of the case?
Well, Ellie, I think it's impossible to overstate the seriousness of this assault. It's clearly been absolutely traumatizing for Daniel, but I know that he agrees that, it's fortunate that the attacker picked on him. And as Daniel made clear in the ITV segment, he has some experience with boxing, which meant he knew how to handle himself during the attack. If it had been an older, less able victim, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that this could now be a murder investigation. Because of this, and because there is a man now at large who made it very clear that he wanted to kill his first Jew and seems to have made a very determined effort to do so, and who is now probably frustrated that he has not accomplished his objective, it is not beyond the realms of possibility that he will try again. So, for that reason, it's vitally important that he is off the streets and in police custody as soon as possible. And this is why we are offering the reward. Now, in terms of what we know about the assailant from the description that Daniel's provided and from the CCTV that's available and can be found on our website, the attacker is black and possibly of Somali ethnicity, aged between 25 and 30, and between 6 foot and 6 foot 1 in height. He had a slender build and bad teeth, and wore a dark green beanie hat, a dark puffer jacket with large pockets, dark trousers. He wasn't wearing gloves. He wore a dark face mask while he was in the shop. He spoke in English with a mixed East London and foreign accent, and also spoke in Arabic. The police response to this is just appallingly disappointing. The fact that the police felt it was disproportionate to request the CCTV from TfL, that's the CCTV that might have aided in the investigation into an attempt on a Jewish man's life, is just shockingly disappointing. The public can contact us. It'll be in complete confidence, or they can provide details so that we can contact them. And if the information leads to a conviction, they'll be eligible for the reward. Alternatively, they can contact the police directly on 101. If they do that, they must quote CRIS 2328674/21. It should also be noted that if the police are contacted directly and we are not, whoever provides the information may be ineligible for the reward, given that we might be unable to contact them.
All right. Well, I want to thank you both very much for joining me today, especially you, Daniel, because I know how reliving these things can be painful. And I really want to thank you for giving us your time today.
Okay, thank you very much, Ellie.